Welcome to Gracefully Booked, a Christian romance podcast, where we discuss Christian fiction of all kinds, as long as there's a love story involved, but we will always remember the greatest love story of all, which is the love Jesus had for us when he died on the cross to pay the debt we could never hope to cover on our own. I'm your host, Tanya Wood, and I'm so thankful you are here today. Let's start off with a small prayer, and we'll dive into today's episode of Gracefully Booked. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to be here today to discuss books, Lord, that focus on the love that you give us, Lord, that is really there for us to just ask for if we want it, Lord, and for your grace, Lord, and your mercy, Lord, and for all of the works of fiction, Lord, that tell these things to readers if they are simply just looking for it, Father, and they can find it. And Lord, I hope that you can give me the right words and help me to find the right books, Lord, because I know many that will be listening to this podcast, Father, may have recently come back to you, Lord, and they have a love for reading, and perhaps there are books out there that they can no longer read, Lord, because they do not share the values that we do, Lord, because we believe in you and we follow you, and we know there are things that we can no longer let come into our minds and into our hearts, Father. And Lord, I just ask you to bless each and every listener today, Father, whatever their needs may be, Lord. I pray that you meet those needs, Lord. And I just ask you to bless them, Lord, and just be with us today, Lord. And we thank you for such a beautiful day and another opportunity, Lord, just to let our light shine. And I thank you, Lord, and I give you the praise, the honor, and the glory in your holy name. Amen. All right, so we are already almost 2 minutes in on this podcast. So if you are still listening, thank you so much. I'm really excited to do this. And so I'll share a little bit of my story real quickly with you guys, and then we will move on. I've always loved the Lord. I've always done my best to serve him, but we all fall short of the glory of God. And so I kind of just stepped away from him, and I started writing things that I knew were against God's word. And I think at that point, I was just going with the whole idea that sex sells. And I wasn't happy doing it. I felt very empty on the inside while I was writing these things, but it came so easily to me. And that's something that took me a long time to come to terms with after I got right with the Lord, was that I seem to struggle more these days with writing, books with a positive message and books that are centered around Christ, and sacrifice and obedience and just, trying to do the right thing and following the Lord and praying and just having a close relationship with Jesus. And, I still have moments, I will not lie to you, I still have moments where I think I should just bring back my other books because they were so much easier to write. But then I know that that is a lie from the enemy, and I pray about it. And, I'd get back on the right track. And I think that's something that everybody can relate to, no matter if it is writing a book or having a podcast, or if you're an artist, or, if you go out and try to spread the gospel with others, no matter what it is that you do. If you have a walk with Christ, the devil will try to fill your mind with doubt. And you have to rebuke him and you have to go on. So forgive me for my rambling. I get so passionate about it because I know, I love to read mushy love stories. I love a happy ending. And it is difficult to find books today that are of the Christian genre. And actually, the reason that I decided that I wanted to start this podcast today was because I had stumbled upon a post in a group that I'm in for Christian writers, and they were talking about how difficult it is just to find Christian romance novels. Somebody had said, that where they lived, people just did not hear of Christian romance fiction. It's relatively well known. And then other people were discussing how that certain social media platforms will purposefully shadow ban the hashtags of Christianity, and how that they don't want people to be able to find these things. So I guess for my part, what I would like to do is try to help people to find those books that they're looking for. Because as you know, once you give your heart to the Lord and you're trying to live right, you cannot go back to the things that you used to read or used to listen to or used to watch. The old man dies and the new man is born. And so you can't go back to what you knew. You have to move forward, and you have to think of good things and pure things. And so that is my hope with this podcast, is that I can introduce you to books that are good for your eyes, good for your heart, good for your soul, and most importantly, that they carry that message of the Lord. I don't know everything that this podcast is going to pertain to. There might be one day that I do an interview with an author. There might be a day where I just go through and tell you guys about some titles I've seen that seem really interesting. I don't always have a lot of time to read or write. I do things at home and I work, and I'm going to try to make as much time for this podcast as I can. So going forward, I just want you to know that I may not always get to read what I'm putting on here. So please keep that in mind whenever you go to check something out. But that is the plan, that is the desire, is to help Christian authors and Christian readers find one another, especially that love romance. I'm currently writing my own romance. It's just taken a bit of time. You're here because you want to find Christ-centered romance novels, and so that is what I'm going to try to bring to you. There may be other fiction, Christian fiction, but we're really going to try hard to stay with the romance ones. And I guess what I'm asking at this point is, if you know of any that I should be sharing with listeners, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is gracefullybooked.podcast@gmail.com. And I'm just so excited to be here with you guys. And I know that I'm rambling, so please forgive me. I'm really excited to be doing a podcast. And, to me, I believe that a Christian fiction novel should be heavily, you should have that theme of the Lord and redemption, and letting people know that they're never too far gone for the Lord, to bring them back. And that there's nothing in this world that you can do to make God not love you, because there are still so many people, who haven't heard about the Lord. They don't know what Jesus did for them. And I know there's a lot of people out there that, choose not to believe in him, and they think that he's imaginary. And, we just have to pray for those people. But if you are a believer and you love to read, and you want to find some romance novels that hold the values that you yourself hold, then hopefully this will be the place that you can come to get that. So let's do this. So a really interesting thing that has happened is that I have been working on this podcast, and I took a small break, and by the time I came back, my voice, I know that I'm going in the right direction, and I know that the enemy is trying to stop me. So you all just keep me in your prayers, please, as I continue forward with this. So anyway, one thing that I would like to let everybody know about that listens to this is that I'm an event planner. I put on events in my hometown of Corbin, and we put on the Corbin Con, the Corbin Card Show. We help with a Hot Wheels show, and I'm actually planning to do a Christian fiction event in like the next 2 or 3 years. I actually have a Facebook page, or a Facebook group rather, that is dedicated to this. I'm trying to get as many authors in there that are around Kentucky and Tennessee and Indiana and Ohio. And if you want to come in from further than that, that is great. That's wonderful. We would love to have you. I think it is called the Christian Authors of Kentucky. You'll have to bear with me because I'm not 100%, so do not hold me to that. I will get that information to you within the next few minutes. I was also doing some research and found that they prefer for a podcast to be at least 44 minutes long. I have no idea how I'm going to come up with that much material to hold over for 44 minutes, but we're going to try really hard. I don't know if this particular episode is going to make it because of my voice. And I tell you what, this is the first time in like the last 2 years that I've had an issue with my voice trying to go out on me. So again, if you would please just keep me in prayer, I would really appreciate it. I did come across the post that inspired me to create a podcast today, and that was actually in the group that is called Avid Readers of Christian Fiction. There are lots of great book recommendations in there. You can connect with authors who share their books as well. As someone said, I think the last name is Gilkey. Her name is Crystal Cud Gilkey. But she said that she was doing a book signing in Texas over the weekend and was surprised by the number of people questioning her genre. They never heard of Christian mystery romance, especially Christian romance. And she says, how do you think we as authors and readers can make people more aware that good Christ-honoring literature exists? Maybe we need an awareness month or something. And then she put a laughy face, which I absolutely 100% agree with. If there can be awareness months for everything else on the planet, then surely to goodness, you guys, we could have a Christian literature awareness month. There were also people in the comments talking about hashtags, which, as I touched on briefly earlier, Apparently, some social media websites have made it a top priority to censor that as much as they can, and we shouldn't be surprised because the Bible tells us about this. The Lord warns us, that He was hated by the earth and that we too are going to be hated by the earth, that the closer we get to the end of times, the more that right is wrong and wrong is right. And I could go on, but you have a Bible. You can read that too. You know as well as I do that there is nothing fictional about the Bible, but we do know that there is a happy ending. We do know who wins, and we can work that to our advantage. And for everybody who doesn't know the Lord, who is not saved, who does not believe, I feel so sorry for, because how do you make it through a day? How do you make it through an hour without having Jesus to lean on? I will never get it. But anyway, we'll save that conversation for another day. I really just wanted to share with you this group. If you're not a part of it, please join it. I have also went ahead and created a Twitter or an X or whatever you want to call it. You can find me on there at GB Podcast 24. I had to put the 24 because somebody else had the GB Podcast already. So if you don't care, if you have a Twitter/X, will you follow me on there, please? I'm going to try to make this as legit as I can. I want to create an Instagram as well, but it is my understanding that they really do, it's not a good place for Christian authors, but I'm going to try anyway. That's something that we can't be afraid of, trying to get the word out there, to spread the good news, to let people know about Christ. Even if at the end of it all we get rejected, that's the worst thing that can happen. So I am going to make an Instagram. I'm going to make a Facebook page. I don't know about a TikTok. I have so many TikToks for so many different things, and it's incredibly hard to keep up with all of this when your life is just so busy as it is. And my hat really goes off to anybody who has the time and can just do it, because I cannot, but I'm going to try. So as you can hear, my voice is just crazy. And I promise you, 3 hours ago, it was not like this. And I talk a lot every day. So for it to be doing this when I'm trying to do this, it's weird. But I know it's not a coincidence. So just pray for me, guys. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. And I'm actually doing some research right now on some books that I can recommend, some books that I have read myself. So sit tight and we will move on to the next segment of this episode. All right, back again with just a couple of book recommendations, offering books that they think others would love. I've had several authors that have reached out to me with the blurbs for their books. They've even offered to send electronic copies for me to review. I don't have a whole lot of time for reading, which I know is terrible, because I should read more, because the more that you read, I believe that it really helps you to write more as well. I've always believed that, even when I was a little kid and I was obsessed with doing the accelerated reader program, the more that I read, the more that my brain learned, and the more that I could write new things. And I think that that's just the process you have to go with. But unfortunately, right now, I just don't have a whole lot of time for reading, and I'm trying to change that. So anyway, I would like to do a couple of book recommendations with you guys. So the first one that I can recommend to you with confidence, this is one that I absolutely cannot wait to read. It has been on my wish list for like 2 years. Actually, it came out on May 25th, 2022, so that is correct. It's almost 2 years. This one is called Liv and the Preacher, A Marriage of Convenience for a Good Cause novel. This is by Mary E. Hanks, and it says, can Liv marry a man she doesn't love for a good cause? 7 months pregnant, alone and homeless, Liv sits in a diner in Spokane, crying over her cold french fries. With plans to spend another night in her car at the rest stop, she has no direction for her life. So when Trish North, a motherly stranger, invites her to stay with her, how can she refuse? Trish's son, Smith, has felt a calling to be a pastor ever since he was a kid. However, the church where he feels led to minister has a strict requirement. Their pastor must be married. When Smith's engagement disintegrates along with his dreams of pastoring, he faces a faith crisis. Trish has a solution. Why doesn't he marry their house guest? A preposterous idea. Yet, in their unlikely, unexpected friendship and over baking mishaps, Smith and Liv discover laughter, purpose, and hope. What about love? If you enjoy lighthearted, inspirational Christian fiction with a slow burn romance, flirting while baking, and a marriage of convenience storyline. Okay, so that is the blurb for this book. It is, from what I can see, it is on Amazon. It could be on other channels as well. I should probably research these things and let you guys know. But for now, there is one really great recommendation. You know how it'll let you read like so much percentage on Amazon? I did that when it first came out, and I was like, this book looks crazy good. And it's totally on me that I have not got it yet to read it, but I will. It's like right there at the top of the list. And you can get the paperback for $15.99 currently. And it looks like the Kindle edition is $4.99. So there's our first one. Alrighty, we're going to move on to the next recommendation that I have for you guys. And this one is on Amazon as well. This is by R. Marshall Wright. Now, I follow him from several different Christian writers groups. I befriended him on Facebook because he seems pretty prolific to me. And what I can see of this series that I'm looking at right now, there are 7 books in this series. I don't know what all he has written, but I have read samples of his writing, and he's very good. And he is also on my wish list. The book that I have down for him is Grace Like a River Flows, and I think that is actually the series name. So we'll just get started with this one. On the back of the book, it says, Grace Like a River Flows is Christian fiction, and I pastored there for 5 years. Many characters are based on real people I knew. It's a great story. It's all made up. Well, almost. The tracks have separated this town for 100 years, but one day God's grace began flowing like a river. And like a mighty raging river, you can't control it and you can't stop it. God's grace goes where he wants. Grace Like a River Flows is about very flawed people who live on both sides of the tracks which run through Glencoe. Lives are changed, families are transformed, and an old mainline church is renewed. Come meet the cast of characters who will be touched by God. Charlotte, featured on the cover, has seen the tracks. Will God's grace touch her life? Look for the surprise ending. You'll never see it coming. And that right there, just the way that is written, just touches me and catches my attention and just makes me so eager to read it. And I have no excuse as to why I haven't read it yet, because it just sounds so awesome. And the cover for this book, it has a young lady on it wearing a dress and a blue jean jacket, and she's facing away from the audience, and she is walking, it looks like she's walking down railroad tracks. All I know is that this book has to be good, and I can't wait to read it. I wanted to share with you guys in case you want to read it. On Amazon, paperback is $12.99. Kindle version is $1.99. So don't miss out on it. And I can't wait. I think that's going to have to be my next read right there. This was published on April 19th, 2019. And again, that is R. Marshall Wright. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him in a lot of Christian writing groups. And he just seems like a really great guy. So be sure to check that one out. And that is number 2. And I'll be back shortly with number 3. All right, guys. So I'm going to have one more recommendation for you. I really wanted to try to make it to the 44 minutes, but I don't think time is going to allow for this today. I really appreciate anybody who makes a podcast because it is very time consuming. It takes a lot of work, but I'm going to stick with this and try to keep bringing you great book recommendations of the Christian fiction romance genre to be able to share this book for her. That's exactly what I want everybody to be able to do. So if you're listening to this and you have written a Christian romance book, please just reach out to me. As I said, you can email me. And that email address is Gracefully Booked Podcast at gmail.com. We'll just jump right into this, guys. It is the Santa Run, and this was released on September 27th of 2022. So let's jump right in. It says, tradition isn't the only thing on the line this Christmas. As Christmas rounds the bend, Eliza Lee Elliott struggles with her grandfather's death. Though her faith has carried her through grief, working at the Appalachian Express has kept her sane, especially her new task of coordinating the Santa Run. Pine Valley's oldest tradition not only serves the community, the run gives her purpose. Bennett Olson is tired of city life. Something's got to give, and when McCoy Railway purchases the Appalachian Express, it gives in a big way. Supervising the Kentucky acquisition is his chance to slow down and win back the attention of his boss and father with a job well done. When an accident threatens the Santa Run, Eliza and Bennett are pushed together at every turn, making their growing attraction impossible to ignore. As time ticks down to the event, tradition isn't the only thing in jeopardy. Hearts are on the line, with or without a train on the tracks. All right. Guys, that sounds wonderful. I'm so excited. I love to read Christmas books at any time of the year. I do not care. I love Christmas. I love the joy that comes with Christmas. I love the spirit of Christmas, because we all know that Christmas is not about presents or the tree or even Santa, which is in the name of this. But we know what Christmas is. But Christmas is just such a happy time, and it seems like everybody really strives for that goodwill toward men. And I wish that could be a year-round thing. And I guess maybe that's why I love to read Christmas books at any time, because I just always have that feeling, of the goodwill toward men. But this book, the cover of it is a smiling couple, and there is a train on the front of it. And here's what I can tell you about why I really love this so far is the fact that it has to do with Kentucky, and I believe that the author is also from Kentucky. And I love any book that mentions my state. Kentucky is beautiful, and I am actually tinkering with adding my own hometown into my book that I'm writing. But this isn't about my book, it's about Beth's book. And I love the names that she's given her characters. I love the setup for this story, the McCoy Railway. That's amazing. The Appalachian Express. And I know a lot of people say Appalachian, but I say Appalachian. I'm one of those folks. But this it sounds like a really good, sweet story. And I can only imagine how that they're pushed together at every turn. Definitely sounds like my kind of book, and I will be getting this, definitely. Paperback is $8.99 on Amazon, and the Kindle version is $6.99. They also have a hardcover version of this available. If anybody loves hardcover, I myself have not tried to make a hardcover because, I don't know. I have no good excuse for that either. But anyway, so that is my third book recommendation. Thank you, Beth, for reaching out to me with that. Guys, if you have a chance to check out any of these books, they all sound really good. And I guess we're going to wrap it up here in just a second. So let me know what you think about these books. All right, so we successfully made it over 20 minutes with this podcast. I think that it went pretty well. I hope that you think it went pretty well. I hope that you will come back and listen to the next one. I don't know when it will be out, hopefully within the next couple of days. I would love to find more time to just be able to do these every single day for you guys, because I have had a blast. So with that said, be sure to follow me on Twitter/X. Be sure to email me with any recommendations that you have, even if it is your own book. And find me on Facebook. I'm going to have that made later tonight. And that will also be under the Gracefully Booked Podcast. So we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful evening, wonderful day, whatever time you're listening to this. May it just be the most awesome ever. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you come back, and God bless you guys. Have a wonderful night. Keep shining your light for others to see, and let's just keep spreading the good news. God bless you. Bye.